Thank you for joining us today for the Pulitzer Center's Focus on Justice, Artivism with Liza Jessie Peterson. We are eager to know where you're joining us from, so please let us know your location in the chat. My name is Ann Peters from the Pulitzer Center, and I'm joining from Washington, D.C. Our conversation today is a continuation of the Pulitzer Center's Focus on Justice online series of conversations and performances this year. We believe it is critical, especially at this moment in our history, to keep issues of justice at the forefront of our reporting and our educational efforts. And we want to hear from you, our audience, today. So you'll see a Q&A icon on your screen. Please begin adding your questions as soon as something comes to mind at any time during today's event. We will try to get to as many of your questions as possible as part of our conversation after the performance. And now I am so pleased to introduce Liza Jessie Peterson. Liza pursues her work as an actress, playwright, and poet to advocate for incarcerated populations through both art and teaching. In her time with us today, Liza takes us through her experiences engaging with individuals in carceral systems and the school to prison pipeline that have pushed her to make evocative, timely art that challenges assumptions. So please now join me with some virtual applause to welcome Liza Jessie Peterson.
Hi, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here, for Zooming in from all over the country. And thank you for that wonderful introduction, Anne. So I'm going to just jump right in and tell you a little bit about what you're about to see. In 1998, I was offered a job as a teaching artist to facilitate poetry workshops to public school kids throughout the 5 boroughs in New York City. And my very first assignment was at a high school called Island Academy. And I was, assigned to teach incarcerated adolescent boys at Rikers Island. Now, I had never been to jail or prison, and I didn't even know the difference between the two. And during my first week there, a correctional officer, he said to me, he said, "You don't know where you are, do you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm at Rikers Island." And the officer, he scoffed at my naivete, and he said, "No, you're actually on a modern day plantation." And then he pointed to the adolescent boys who were in the hallway going to class. And he said, "That's the new crop. They're the new cotton." And I tell you what you do. When you go home, you put prison industrial complex into the computer, see what you find. And when I see you tomorrow, we're going to have a conversation about it. Now, this was in 1998. So this was years before mass incarceration was even a term. This was years before social justice and prison reform was a thing. Michelle Alexander's tremendous book, The New Jim Crow, was not yet out. So there was not there was no national conversation or language that we have now. And when I put prison industrial complex into my computer, I immediately fell down the rabbit hole of just all of this shocking information about private prisons and profit, draconian statistics. I was on fire. I felt like an evangelist, like a town crier with an urgent need to ring the alarm. What's going on with Junebug? Joanne, you have to tell Nasir, don't let them give that boy no fucking pills to calm him down. That's the first thing they want to do is give our kids a pill to get them all numbed up and addicted.
Junebug is 6 years old. Of course he's going to be angry and confused and acting out. He don't understand why you can't come home right away. It's a phase, JoJo. You're going to be with him soon, and your kids are going to be just fine. Now they're giving Larry pills for his depression, turning him into a zombie. I went to go visit Tariq last month, and he said Larry barely comes out his cell, sometimes not even to eat. And Larry don't need no pills. He needs for justice to be served and for them crooked cops to be indicted. That boy don't belong there. He's supposed to be in college right now. And Deshaun, looking at 10 years for possession of fucking weed. Amir got 25, ain't killed nobody. Vanessa was just riding in the car and they giving her 18 years on conspiracy. Ernest got 8 years for selling Molly. Kim got 5 years for Percocets and prescription pills. Coochie, Dirty Yorman. Danny sitting up at Rikers Island over 6 blunts and some ecstasy. Party drugs. And Donna looking at 15 to life because she went to go braid Victor's hair and got caught up in a raid. And you know Victor, he not even no big time kingpin. He a small nickel and dime hustler. And they giving him football numbers, double digits. And them cops definitely planted them drugs on Larry. Yo, these stupid ass drug laws, this war on drugs is fucking us up. The government can prescribe them, but quick to lock us up if we try to get in on their hustle. It's a bunch of us serving mad time for selling weed. And now the rich white boys, they opening up businesses and they selling that shit legally. Now they want to talk about being compassionate for opioid addiction. Not for us. Where was that compassion with crack? This war on drugs ain't never gonna stop. Especially now. They want to put people in prison for as long as possible. Turning back the clock on everything. Girl, they giving police precincts more military equipment. They gonna have armored tanks back up in the hood. Baby, these crackers ain't playing. When I showed Pablo my pie chart I made for school with all my statistics and I started breaking everything down, girl, he was so impressed. He took out a piece of paper and a pen and started taking some notes. I was like, ooh, Pablo, oh, I'm feeling you feeling me. I told him that in New York State, not just the city, but the entire state, the majority of drug dealers is white. But out of all the drug offenders locked up in New York State prison, the majority, something like 95% is black and Latino. Everybody doing some crime, but we the ones doing the time. Girl, when I started kicking my funky bobo, you could have fried an egg on Poppy's head and boiled some soup. He was so mad. See, that's that bullshit. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So now the way you breaking it down, yo, mathematically, you know what I mean? I'm just a pawn in the main criminal's war strategy. Yo, mom, these white motherfuckers, they been playing dirty though. You ain't really saying nothing new, because the Constitution says that slavery is illegal except for punishment of a crime. You peep the motherfucking loophole, except for punishment of a crime. So, if you commit a crime, you become a legal slave. Yeah, okie doke. Yo, think about it, mom. Back in slavery time, a nigga had to work for free. He ain't have no say in the matter. That was it. Law. These white motherfuckers, they was caking off for all that free labor for 100 years. No payroll, straight profit. Now that's a hustler's dream, baby. But then when slavery ended, a nigga could sit down and relax, try to get his mind right. He ain't have to do shit for the white man. So what did the cracker devil do, ma? He made laws making it a crime to not have a job. Crazy shit like you could get arrested for anything a cracker said you did. For laughing, looking him in the eye, real devil type shit. The black codes. So now, all of a sudden, the black man is getting locked up. Feverishly, you heard? That motherfucking slave master, he ain't got no more slaves. But now, he could get him some convicts to work for free, legally. Same nigga, same job, same zero pay, same plantation, just a different job type. Yeah, You ain't know about that. See, I've been reading up on a lot of deep informative shit. I don't read them hood drama books, because my life is more fascinating. I need to write a book, you heard? Because I seek knowledge. I'm a different type of dude like that. So now look at the shit today. Yo, mad niggas is locked up. Yo, we convicted legal slaves. These ain't nothing but old war games, mommy. Yo, I got to give it to the white man, yo. He mad strategic with his shit. War on drugs is technically, that's a war on me. So that makes me a POW-OD. I'm a prisoner of the war on drugs. So where's my flag, huh? Where's my motherfucking flag? Word up.
Hi. So that was the first clip. I hope it was playing okay for you. It was a little bit glitchy on my end, but it could be my computer. So I just want to make sure that it's playing for everybody, you know, the way it's supposed to. So this past January in 2020, before the world changed as we know it now, before we were wearing masks and before COVID was widespread, I had an incredible opportunity to film my performance of the Peculiar Patriot at Angola State Penitentiary in Louisiana. Angola was a former plantation. It is a former plantation, and it was named after the majority of the slaves who were from Angola. And I performed in front of an audience of over 600 incarcerated men packed into a chapel. And the performance was also live streamed. They have an in-house television station so that the entire prison population, which sits on 18,000 acres of former plantation, so they could all view it. The men, they loved it, but the correctional officers and the powers that be, not so much. They literally stopped my show. They stopped my performance because the content was too powerful, too revolutionary, too empowering. So this next clip that you're about to see was filmed at Angola before I was silenced. And there's currently a documentary that's in development about this historic performance and experience.
If this was your last time to be able to address, after you said this, there would be nothing else anymore for you to say, what would be the last thing you would say?
The first thing that came to mind was the ancestor Harriet Tubman. And I would remind everyone that Harriet Tubman, she was born into slavery. That's all she knew. But she saw something bigger. So just because you see prison with your physical eyes, what do you see beyond that? So we have an obligation to continue the legacy and the envisioning that Harriet Tubman did. Because if she could see freedom when all she saw was plantation and slave life, then we can envision a life and a world without mass incarceration.
So the documentary for that is coming soon. So stay tuned. I'm often asked, why did you name your play The Peculiar Patriot? Where did the name come from? Well, 19th century Southern lawmakers in the antebellum South, they referred to slavery as the peculiar institution because slavery was too dirty of a word. So they attempted to sanitize it. The peculiar institution was a euphemism for slavery, and it was intended to gloss over the horrors of the reality. And a patriot is someone who loves and supports their country, right? So this play, The Peculiar Patriot, seeks to re-examine the definition of patriotism, as Betsy LaQuanda Ross, the protagonist who you saw in the first clip, she salutes the urban street soldiers who are victims of hyper-policing, racial profiling, bias, judicial systems, and the failed war on drugs. So now with 2.3 million people incarcerated in America, which constitutes a small nation of people, right? That number, that 2.3 million people incarcerated, that number is multiplied exponentially when you consider the family, the friends who love and support that peculiar nation, right? Behind that wall. So a peculiar patriot is anyone who travels on buses, miles upon miles, collects phone calls, writes letters, puts money on the books for their beloved ones behind the wall, and anyone who supports a peculiar soldier in a peculiar war in a peculiar institution.
How many thousands of us is being sold down the river and ain't nobody gonna ever know because it don't never make it to the news? Thank you. All that shit is domestic terrorism, if you ask me. Right after 9/11, everybody was running around talking about Al-Qaeda this and Al-Qaeda that. Black people, we wasn't never worried about no ISIS or no damn Al-Qaeda. We worried about Al-Qaeda, but not no Al-Qaeda. And Bin Laden, he had more videos out than Beyonce. And they couldn't find his ass for 8 fucking years. But they found that oil on day one, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Then they started that war in Iraq and they got paid like a motherfucker. Because it was only about the oil any damn way. That's the only thing this country care about is the almighty dollar. And war is big business. And if we're at war, which we most certainly are, I done earned my stripes. I done served my country tizzity very well during these war times, supporting our urban street soldiers, formerly in the trenches on the front lines of Red Hook, Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, Flatbush, Queensbridge, Jamaica Ave, Harlem World, 125th, Boogie Down Bronx, Gun Hill Road, Strong Island. You feel me? I'm serving it. Yankee motherfucking doodle dandy up in this piece. I'm a true patriot, a real patriot, a Harriet Tubman, have you clutching your pearls type patriot, original black warrior queen, wild woman who runs with the wolves in underground railroads type patriot, and in a tradition of wartime divas, I too give encouragement and inspiration for our POWOD and our GI government inmates. I bring the alarm. I conjure, I mix, and I stir with my charm. I was voted #1 prison industrial complex pinup, winning over Rihanna and Beyonce. Yes, I beat them bitches. I was posed on top of a pile of commissary bags with my fist in the air. Sexy and political. Gotta have a strategy, cause shit with this devil is critical. We're under attack since way back, but watch me now. Use everything I got. Load my Glock. Wake up the sleeping giants on the block. I stay woke. What? You thought I forgot, motherfucker? This is a state of emergency, and black love is kryptonite for white supremacy. So let's get it. Yeah. After a conversation with me, you'll be back in your mind to get free. Info loaded in my clip, shiny gloss on my lips. You looking thirsty like you want to take a sip. Yes, I am the one with the gift to unlock your mind from the lies. All my people serving time. You need me to feed you. Neanderthal and corporate suit, the greatest parasite, bloodthirsty sensation, American mosquito in the zombie nation, plantations to lynchings, Jim Crow to prison. Who you really be if you ain't fucking with me? Yeah, no identity. So fill your maggot belly up with nigger snacks and tape. I'm an old school ninja. I know your expiration date. Karma isn't coming, gonna steal your face. So I put a little honey on my shiny black blade. All like those days. So these devils can't hide. I bring a motherfucking beast. So I can bang against the beast. So we can bang against the beast. So we can bang against the beast.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. That character, she just always gets me. I love that G. She's a firecracker. So I thought I would close my performance with a piece called Do You Really Want to Know? And it was written by me, and it was performed by an actress by the name of Sekan Sengblo. And this monologue, it examines this very specific moment that we're in with COVID, quarantine, racial terror, Black Lives Matter, and Zoom. This new reality, right? It was written in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder and the protests that followed. And so I wrote this monologue in 8 hours, and the actress, she memorized it and she filmed it in 8 hours. And it was part of the 24-hour monologue series, which I affectionately called Quarantine Theater. So after this video, I'm going to be back. We're going to talk about everything you just saw, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, let me see. Get my sound camera on. Oh. Hi, Jill. Hey, Brian. Hi. OMG. Kathy, your dog is so cute. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Do you really want to know? My father used to say, be careful what you ask for, baby, because you just might get it. I appreciate that, Jill. And I agree, this is a learning moment for all of us, not just here at work, but for everyone across the country. Very true. Okay. I've been thinking about that question a lot. How am I doing? Sometimes I'm okay, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm depressed, sometimes I cry, and just some days I'm paralyzed with rage. It all comes in waves. Like I can't think about George Floyd without thinking about Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery, and then Tamir Rice and John Crawford, Eric Garner. It's like a tsunami of hashtags and body bags, and the names have just been piling up inside of me. Ayanna Jones, Rashard Brooks, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Tatiana Jefferson, Sandra Bland. The names. So many I've had to swallow. And pray I didn't vomit when I came to work, because, well, that would make the office uncomfortable. As devastating as COVID-19 is, it's been both a curse and a gift. Like not having to come into the office gave me all this, gave all of us a time out. Definitely gave me time to finally just like sit with the pain. not have to clean it up, not have to perform for you. This quarantine, this COVID-19 mess gave us all time to sit the fuck down and stop moving. Stop being distracted with busy, work. Oh, wait, I'm sorry for cursing. I realized I forgot how many names I had swallowed and was carrying inside of me. All of them just stuffed down in my liver, my kidneys, my colon, my solar plexus, all of my bones coming out of my skin. I even got acne. I never had acne. I didn't realize I had been walking around all this time with all those names, and every time I would learn about another name, another murder, me just snuffed out on TV on loop, I would swallow the name and come to work. So when George Floyd said, "I can't breathe," when I watched him begging that monster for air, struggling for oxygen with a knee buried into his windpipe for 8 minutes and 46 fucking seconds, he kept begging, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Mama." And he cried out for his mother, and I realized I've been holding my breath. I wasn't breathing. I was only taking tiny sips of air, because if I took a deep breath, all the names just fall out. All of them. All the lynchings and burnings and strangulations, state-sanctioned murders. All the pain would just flood the air, and my rage would become a tornado, and I didn't want to hurt anybody like you. I have plenty of white friends that I adore. So I kept swallowing the names and holding my breath for years. Until now. So when you ask me, how am I doing? If I'm being truthful, that's kind of a loaded question, because well, I appreciate the question. I really do. I mean, you didn't have to ask. You didn't have to make that kind of space for me to take up today. And I appreciate the team checking in on me before we plow into business as usual, because it's not business as usual. I mean, the country is on fucking fire, and right now, today, to be totally honest, I'm feeling like a goddamn hornet. So I think, instead of asking me how I'm doing, you should ask yourself and each other, what are you doing? What are you thinking? How are you going to change and grow and be different? And how have you been complicit in your silence? I mean, really. How has white supremacy seeped into your psyche and blindsided you with a warped sense of reality, and infected your humanity to the point where the names, just all the names for all these goddamn years were just like isolated incidents to you. Just another bummer hashtag that got dumped into a landfill. All of your pity. What a shame that you had the luxury of tossing aside somewhere over there, out of the sight, just out of sight, out of mind, because it makes you feel unfucking comfortable. So don't ask me nothing. Don't ask me nothing. Ask yourself, what took you so long? Yeah. You do the work. God damn it, it's time for you to do the work and ask yourself the questions. Figure it out. Because I'm tired. I'm in pain and I'm hemorrhaging with names. So don't ask me, but ask your friends. Ask your fucked up family members. Ask your coworkers. Ask your neighbors. Ask your damn self. How come we are so hateful and fucked up? How did we allow white supremacy to poison our society for so long and corrupt our minds and provide oblivious comfort while I'm over here dying, while I've been swallowing names for hundreds of years? My niece, Helena, she called me the other day crying, and she could barely speak. She said, "Auntie, how come they hate us? I don't understand. What did we do to them?" And I told her, baby, it's in their DNA. It's in their cellular memory. Most of them don't even realize it because they've been living in delusion for so long. It's on autopilot, baby. Baby girl. And I told her, think about it like this. We come from African people, right? Okay, now African people, okay, are the oldest humans on the planet. The oldest bone was found in Africa. So we are the parents of humanity. So think about this. I told her, I said, think about this, sweetie. Over in Africa, we had plush land, fertile soil, bountiful mango trees, hot, warm sun, abundant wildlife, gold, minerals, rivers. Our skin drinks in the sun and does photosynthesis. Now, over in Europe, Mother Nature was not as kind. The early European Neanderthals were in caves. The weather was brutal. It was cold. Crops were not always bountiful. They had diseases, bubonic plagues, and shit. So they were constantly at war with nature, at war with God. So by the time they figured out how to get over to Africa, they see us chilling on the bank of the Nile, eating succulent fruit from trees, wearing gold sandals, cooking meat, playing instruments, smelling like frankincense with the sun kissing us. And what do you think that did to their minds? She said, "Oh, they hate us." And I said, "Yes, baby. Since their arms are too short to box with God, they attack the next closest thing to God. Us." So, I've been thinking a lot about this, guys. Okay. I've been thinking about a lot, and I understand that's a great idea. 10 a.m. tomorrow works.
Liza, that is also powerful. And thank you. I want to kick it off. Michelle, specifically from our audience, wants to know, do you really want to know online? I think a lot of people are wondering how they can share it. So I just want to turn it back to you on that.
Yes, it's actually on my Instagram page, my my IGTV. which is Liza Jessie Peterson. And it'll also be available on Pulitzer website, right, for this event. So
That's
yeah.
right. We are recording. I should mention that we've recorded this, so you'll be able to share the entire performance with Liza and the conversation with folks. So we'll make sure to get that out. And so thank you. You may also be seeing this in the panelists and attendees in terms of Elaine is talking about it being a weighty and powerful piece. So starting with that, talk us through, the last piece, Do You Really Want to Know? 8 hours, performance, taking it together. Take us through your artistic thought process and obviously personal thought process in bringing this together for the performance.
Sure. So artists, we're antennas. And I remember when I, got the email about participating in the 24-hour play, and you have 24 hours, right? You really got 8 hours. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And literally it was on the heels of George Floyd's murder. And it was just so palpable. It was just so in my spirit. And so I knew that I had to address the fires. I knew I had to address what was happening in the moment, because it's what I was feeling. It was what was all around me. And I remember a lot of my friends, a lot of my white friends were, checking in with me, which was beautiful, because they were feeling it too. Like we were all feeling, because we're human, right? And I just remember in that moment, I was like, if I really say how I feel, it may not come out the right way. Do you know what I mean? And so I found myself, when I was responding to my white friends, that I was censoring how I felt for their comfort. And I was like, whoa. And I said, there it is. So I really wanted to kind of get to that censoring and that, gaze that a lot of Black people that we, navigate in the world, in the workplace, to make other people feel comfortable. And what happens when it's so exasperated in this moment where there's no more room to hide or to, take cover. And so that's where the piece came out of, because I couldn't hide it anymore, And so my way of hiding was just not responding for a while. So I kind of went MIA, for a couple of weeks with some of my white friends, because I needed to be able to reconnect in an authentic way.
Touching upon the one thing that a number of our audience questions have come up concerning the performance in Angola. And we'll go back and forth on a lot of different points, because so much has been brought up in your performance today and the pieces. How did you even get a chance to perform your piece in Angola? How did they let you in? Did they want to screen it before? Or are they just like, welcome?
Well, that's a great question. So, I'm part of a collective of artists and activists, which you all are, a Pulitzer Center, Art for Justice, where artists and activists come together and are supported by the, Agnes Gunn's Art for Justice Fund. And I met a man named Norris Henderson, who's an activist in New Orleans. He was formerly incarcerated at Angola. He does tremendous work in the prison and also outside of the prison. And so he has carte blanche with the prison. And he and I linked up, and I said, hey, I would love to bring my play to Angola. And he said, of course, no problem. I mean, he knew who to call, who to reach out to. So, he basically, put together this kind of yellow brick road, easy, lane to get in. And they asked for the material, actually, no, they never asked for the script. They never asked for the script, which if they would have asked, I would have sent, I would have submitted it. So they asked for everything else. And, I performed this play in over 35 prisons and penitentiaries across the country, So I didn't think it would be a problem, but it was.
So, by the way, that question was from Melinda in our audience. When you were saying the individuals who are incarcerated had one reaction, these folks jammed in, listening intensely, and yet then the other side of the system, the guards, just in terms of, I think you said, too revolutionary, too empowering. How did they just say, stop it right now? How did that happen? And what was the reaction from the men who were listening and watching?
Oh, it was actually really, really fascinating. So I felt like the energy in the chapel was like electric. You know, they were talking back to the stage. You know, it was this thing happening, right? That's like magical for any theater artist. Like when the audience is that engaged, and you know, there's a part in the play. Like after I finished the manifesto, you know, did my little dance, and I finished that scene. After every scene, I go off stage, I get my little Ziploc bag, and it's the next visit for the character. So I had to go backstage, you know, switch my little Ziploc bag. And when I went backstage after that scene, there was Norris, who was the gentleman who brought me in, and there was a correctional officer standing behind him. And he said, "Oh, there's been an emergency. We have to stop the show." And I said, "Oh, I got it." Like I knew right away. I got it. I said, "Oh, they didn't like the content." And he's like, "Well, we just got to stop the show." He couldn't say anything because, of course, you know, the administration, the CEO was behind him. So I said, "You want to let the guys know?" He said, "Yeah." So he goes back out into the chapel. He gets on the microphone. He makes the announcement, "Oh, there's been an emergency in the chapel. We have to stop the show." Now, the men, they all love Norris because, you know, he does great work. He's, you know, like he's like a modern day Harriet Tubman, right? He goes in, he really helps them out. So they knew, so they all started booing, not him, but they were booing what he was saying, right? The announcement, the outcome. "Oh, let her finish the show. Oh man, we know what it is." Oh, so I could, and I'm backstage, right? And I could hear the chapel almost like feel like it was about to levitate with just this like palpable, you know, disappointment and anger and yelling and ah. So I said, let me go out and do a curtain call. Mm-hmm. Now, my normal curtain call, whenever I finish any show, is very namaste, thank you, thank you, thank you. And when I went out, you know, to the stage, and I saw all those men sitting out there, and I was like a hornet. I was enraged that they stopped my show. I've never had my show stop, ever, 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 ever. I went out and I just threw my fist in the air, and I said, "Bam!" And all 600 men stood up and they threw their fist in the air and they said, "Bam!" And they just started chanting my name, "Liza, Liza, Liza." So there was this, almost like this, like total unrest. You know, the CEO started yelling at them, telling them to sit down, get on the bus. And they were just trying to get him out of the chapel as fast as possible. So it was quite extraordinary.
So that's different than, as you said, there were 35, I think, more than 35 penitentiaries that you had gone into with the Peculiar Patriot. How, and this is a question also coming from our audience and what we've been wondering about, how did you engage other staff, the guards, the other reactions, and then leading into this conversation now more so on the issue of, you know, mass incarceration. So taking us from the reaction at more than 35 other locations with guards and interactions, and how might that now, you know, through the work of the Peculiar Patriot, how have you seen the conversation on mass incarceration change as well?
Yeah, so I don't know why, I do know why actually, because it was, I mean, Louisiana, you know, I had never been to Mississippi, Louisiana, you know, like I had never been to the deep antebellum South. Mm-hmm. So I know that was probably the reason why it was stopped, not that other administrations or correctional officers didn't feel the same way, but there wasn't that, I don't know, that ancient history that's baked into the soil. And I was actually on a plantation, so it ignited something energetically. And I like I said, I haven't had and the play, if they have the courage to let the play finish, it comes in for a soft landing. It's a love story. She's talking about the relationship with her boyfriend, and because it created such a powerful dialogue for the men afterwards, it was very constructive. So they were maybe uncomfortable in the moment for a bit, but they were able to decide like, okay, it's cool. It didn't cause a riot. The men are talking, they're dialoguing. So it was a positive thing. And it would have been the same at Angola if they would have let me finish.
Yeah. Pulling from both Peculiar Patriot and Do You Really Want to Know? Talk to us about your own thoughts on the national conversation, especially in these months, in terms of mass incarceration, and what your thoughts are on that. Is it not going far enough? Obvious, where are things going, should I say? And what you as an artist think can be your next engagement on these issues.
Yeah, what's really painful and difficult is COVID, because incarcerated people, they can't socially distance. They're making masks and sanitizers that they're not even allowed to use themselves. So it's really medieval. It's really draconian what's happening in this moment with COVID, and it's really, I think, shining a light on how many people are incarcerated that should not be, or their sentences are just so outrageous in relation to what they were convicted of. So I think it's really, and I think it's important that we really, really, really look at that 13th Amendment, which makes slavery legal. If you're incarcerated, that's that loophole. So I'm hoping that it really keeps that issue front and center, criminal justice. And I don't believe in reform. I believe in abolition, because you can't reform slavery, right? You got to abolish it, which is what happened. But it remixed, right? It morphed. So it's challenging us to think about crime and punishment, restorative justice. How else can we heal our communities in a really holistic way? And I think that's what this moment is forcing us to do the heavy lifting, and to do the hard work, and to do the imagining. Like I was saying with Harriet Tubman, she imagined a life outside of slavery, even though all she knew and breathed and was brought up in was a world of plantation chattel slavery. But in her mind's eye and her consciousness, she knew there was something else. So we know that too. Even though all we know is prison, we know that this is not, this can't sustain. So what are we imagining? And I think that we have to just tap into that imagination to manifest it.
And on the reimagining, in terms of your own work, on the creative side, what are some of the artistic projects that you're currently working on that is helping on the reimagining, or in terms of just other activities that you have on the plate coming up?
I've got a couple projects, a couple of TV projects. I'm transitioning from theater into TV land, and that's with this moment of COVID and just being devastated by theater being shut down and wiped off the map temporarily. So I have a project based on my years of teaching at Rikers Island with the adolescents, and another project that addresses the Second Amendment with Black people. What happens when Black people embrace that Second Amendment and start creating militias? Then what, right? So those are two projects that got my juices flowing.
And just on Rikers again, going back to that, I think there are some, in terms of documenting your experiences there, tell us a little bit in terms of maybe going back in time to 1998, when you're first there, you talk about, that conversation about the prison industrial complex, and then compare that to the years later. Did you see, in terms of conversations that you were having with or the work with the individuals who were there on the side of those who were the guards, did you see any movement across that side of the house, so to speak, with change in views, worse, better, or anything along those lines? And then how that might feed into, some of your own experiences as you were creating the format for the play too.
Yeah, when I was there, it was interesting that the correctional officer who originally, kicked me down the rabbit hole and posed that question to me and was using that language. He was a Black correctional officer, and he was actually someone who was very informative and educated me and would educate the boys. And, and maybe because they were adolescents and they were young people. And I was at Rikers Island, which is in, New York City. The majority of the correctional officers reflected the boroughs, right? So they were a majority of, Black and Latino correctional officers. And you definitely had, a rogue, violent culture, but there was also what I witnessed. I don't know, maybe it's just because of my energy. I witnessed the correctional officers who, were had a revolutionary spirit. So even though they were wearing the badge, they knew what it was. Like they were the ones who put me on. They were the ones who kicked game to me so that I could get more, educated about what the system is and what it was doing and how it was set up, because they were part of it. So they were seeing it firsthand, and they had, notes from behind, meetings that I wasn't privy to. So they saw how the machine really worked behind that curtain. And so that was really interesting, because we, it's easy to paint correctional officers as like these ogres. But it was interesting when I went upstate to the adult facilities, it was the complete opposite. The correctional officers reflected the communities that the prisons were in, which were predominantly white. So it was a whole different mentality and consciousness that I didn't see at Rikers Island. Not that didn't exist at Rikers Island, because it's still part of that. It's still a big part of that system. And there were a lot of rogue, not so good COs. But for the most part, they were, people that you'd see the barbecue, in the hood. It was very interesting.
Yeah. There are a number of questions from our audience about performance and using your work of artivism. Mark is asking any tips, names, places where we can find more other great examples. And of course, everyone wants to know where all of your work is viewable, other than like in the upcoming documentary, but I think you also answered that. So just sharing other places and resources for people to go to see similar work.
Well, right now, I don't know. Like it's such a weird time, there are no plays that are happening. There are some, I guess TV shows. We're in a real weird transition, Mark. I wish I had a answer. I wish I could say, oh, go to this website, or go to, turn on this television show. But I'm kind of flailing right now to be really transparent. As an artist, I am fucking flailing, and I'm figuring it out as each day comes. And I'm like, okay, I gotta, transition to TV and film. But even there's some restrictions there. So, ooh.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
it's a great question, but I don't have an answer, and I feel horrible that I don't have an answer for you, Mark.
Well, I think the audience is trying to help you find an answer, because Elaine asked, what is the call to action after we have now put these pieces out here in the atmosphere, as she says? In other words, how can the audience push the work forward? So what advice would you give in terms of the audience to realizing the current situation we're in and the exasperation that you're feeling? But what can the audience do?
There's so many entry points, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's, legislation, there's so many entry points. And I think it's really important that no matter, where you are, what gets you, what lights your fire? You got to lean into your fire, because when you lean into your fire, that's where the healing is, because fire does heal. So, and when you do, it's about like finding, organizations that are doing the work that you're passionate about, whether it's, trans rights, LGBTQ, there's so many entry points, and they're all intersectional, right? So it's all about humanity, it's all about healing, it's all about uplifting and justice. So just finding what speaks to your spirit. For me, criminal justice speaks to my spirit. Youth speaks to my spirit. And the healing and liberation of the Black community, that speaks to my spirit. So that's my entry point, right? And we're all our entry points, we're going to meet up at some point, right? Because we're all working to make this a better inhabitable. It might be climate change, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be the Second Amendment. So find, gun rights, or I should say, restriction of gun rights. And yeah, so what can you do? It's I think it's about being authentic to your fire.
That's good. That's a good quote. That's important. Authentic to your fire. There is, and it reminds me, one of our audience members also mentions The Box, which is a performance play by Sarah Shore that we had up performances earlier in the fall.
Yeah.
And there'll be a link to that on our site soon as well. So again, different people are entering through different lenses and different points. So good to always remember how we might connect on that.
And what you can do is start having courageous conversations. That's so important. Like, having courageous conversations with people who may not think like you, in your family, in your workplace, in your circles, instead of tiptoeing. Like, we're in a time now, we don't have time to tiptoe. Like the country is on fire. We have to have conversations, and it doesn't mean convincing other people to think like you, but at least have a dialogue, to have some understanding, even though I may not agree. Because that's where we're at. We cannot sweep anything under the rug right now. So, while we're Zooming with our friends and family, like, lean into those conversations that are a little bit uncomfortable and might, they might not talk to you for a while, but they'll come around maybe.
You have to start the conversation somewhere.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're coming to the top of our hour with you, and I know we'd love to go on more, but I don't want to cut us off. So is there anything else you want to share, just again about the time we have together? And I should say to our audience, please stay with us a little bit longer. We have some more information for you, so don't run away just yet. But Liza, is there anything else that you'd like to pass on? These some great messages, and of course your work is phenomenal. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I thank everybody for tuning in and watching the performance. My work is on my website, which I think you have listed. My name, LizaJessieP.com. And my Instagram TV has a lot of my videos. And again, I can't stress how important it is to have these courageous conversations. My God, the only way we're going to get through this is if we start talking with each other, not at each other, and not tiptoeing, but, addressing the elephant in the room. And the elephant is in the room, so we got to start talking about it.
Oh,
So, so thank you all. And I imagine if you tuned in to this, you're already somebody who has the courage to have those conversations. So let's get talking and let's get moving and let's stay in those streets and let's stay on those phones and let's stay fired up, because fire is what heals. It can destroy and it can also build and heal and warm.
That's great. Thank you so much again. And we also want to thank today's presentations included excerpts from of the Peculiar Patriot that was filmed at Woolly Mammoth Theater, the clip that you saw filmed at the Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola, courtesy of Derek Mindler. And then of course the monologue, Do You Really Want to Know, courtesy of 24-Hour Plays. Thanks to my colleagues as well at the Pulitzer Center, especially Holly Peipenberg and Kayla Edwards, our producers for this event. And of course, thanks to you, our audience. Please stay a little while longer. We do have a brief survey at the end. And for those who are not familiar with the Pulitzer Center, we just want to let you know that we're a nonprofit journalism education organization supporting more than 170 reporting projects each year on global and local issues. And we have developed strong K-12 through university educational programming that engages students and teachers on underreported issues around the globe. And we create the public programming like today's session. So please check out more events at pulitzercenter.org. And for those of you who are able to join us and support our mission with any level of contribution, remember we are a nonprofit, and so we depend on donors to carry out our work. Of course, we want to thank all of our donors who helped us bring Liza and her work to you, including, as we mentioned, the Art for Justice Fund. Art for Justice has separately supported Liza's work and the work of the Pulitzer Center, including our Focus on Justice series and our reporting and other educational outreach on mass incarceration and related justice issues. So now, shortly, we'll be saying our goodbyes, and afterwards we will have a brief survey after the session. So thank you again for being with us, and we hope you'll join us soon again. Goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.